Hi, good evening to you. Thanks for clicking on to the Sunday edition of the Long Range Discussion. Mark Fogan here. Hope you're having a good weekend wherever you are. Hope you're enjoying the cool weather. Folks, it's going to start to moderate over the course of the next 4 or 5 days, unfortunately. Not what I'm wanting to see, unfortunately. We have got the ridge of high pressure, that stubborn Azores high, keeping winter basically away from Ireland, Northern Ireland and Scotland. We have, of course, seen much more winter-like conditions across the majority of England. We've seen a snowfall last weekend, snowfall a few days ago, and followed by that secondary band of snow came the frigid air as it crossed over the North Sea and brought temperatures down as low as minus 15, minus 16 degrees. Even this morning, I believe, I can't remember exactly where it was, but there was another minus 12 or minus 13 Celsius this morning under those clear skies. And, of course, the snow cover allowing that increase, that deeper overnight cooling. But certainly over the next few days, folks, the ECMWF is starting to show a moderation in temperature. The high itself is building northwards, but the problem is it's actually sitting too close to the UK. So therefore, we're not going to see the kind of cold that I'm forecasting that I've been hoping for. You know, I say that I want to see a forecast naturally, because if you make a forecast, then obviously you want to see a pattern evolve the way you forecasted it to. And unfortunately this week, I don't see it happening. But let's keep a check on things. The persistency has been there for a milder week than I would like to see across the UK and Ireland. That Azores high has been so dominant this winter. And of course, the pattern over the past 14 days saw that Siberian air fill Europe. And of course, we've seen that crossing the North Sea, bringing frigid cold to the Low Countries. It really wouldn't surprise me at the end of this month that this is one of the coldest Februaries, not only for the Low Countries in perhaps several decades. I'd be very surprised if it wasn't several decades, if not one of the coldest on recorded history for the Low Countries, as well as a large chunk of Europe, in fact. But certainly we've been cheated. It feels that way across Ireland, Northern Ireland and Scotland. We really haven't seen much in the way of winter. Blame that Azores high, folks. That has been what's kept the cold weather out. But across North America, as you can see here, a vortex, the Hudson Bay vortex, slightly east of Hudson Bay itself. And of course you've got a strong northwesterly flow blowing right through over the Great Lakes, lake effect snowfall, and as well as that, very, very cold temperatures all the way from the northern plains into the Ohio Valley and into the northeastern United States. So Arctic air is back over the northeastern United States. How long that's going to last for remains to be seen. It's just been one of those years. It's been so frustrating for us here in the western part of North America, I was going to say, the far western part of Europe, and as well as that across a large part of North America as well. Winter has not existed this year. Now let's have a quick look of this model. This is the ECMWF. Like I said, this is for North America. Look how brutally cold it is over northeastern Canada. Notice as well how mild it's become over Alaska. We've seen temperatures near or record-breaking temperatures after one of the most severe Januaries on record up there. We've seen, of course, temperatures widely down into the minus 60s. There was a temperature down recorded as low as minus 79 Fahrenheit, when before that the temperature did, the actual thermometer that was recorded that minus 79, then failed and broke. So could we have seen a new record for not only Alaska, which by the way is minus 80 at Prospect Creek. That was actually recorded within a mile of that location, who recorded the coldest temperature ever recorded in Alaska, as well as the United States as well as a whole. But notice the vortex of the cold. I'm going to have a quick look here. Let's see what happens to that. You can see here that the cold, well, you actually see the vortex dropping down close to New England. That could actually produce some severe cold, easily the coldest temperatures of the winter so far, up across Quebec, Labrador, Newfoundland, and as well as that across New England as well. Very, very cold weather. But if you skip through, you can see here how the model actually wants to show this starting to moderate. You see a more zonal flow. The cold gets pushed back up into Canada again, and we'll see temperatures moderating across the northeastern United States. Let's have a quick look at the UK. Now, what is interesting is the ECMWF is trying to show some cold trying to drop in, next weekend and beyond. But here's the current map, the current conditions. Notice the upper low, the vortex of severe cold, very cold air covering the mainland of Europe, but we are going to be starting to see temperatures moderating over the next week or so. You notice here the cold hanging on in the far southeast of England. You notice as well, if you lived in England, temperatures that were into the -10, -12 last night, or the night before, Friday night into Saturday night, actually ended up milder last night, with milder air, more Atlantic air starting to win out, cover more of the UK, as well as Ireland and Scotland, like we've seen. But let's have a quick skip through, and you'll notice here, folks, the trend more towards milder. Now, the cold air remains in place on Monday. Very cold over Eastern Europe, up across Moscow. We're going to be seeing the coldest temperatures of the year so far up there. It has been a brutal winter up there, after a very mild start, of course, for the majority of the continent. But notice here the ridge, folks. That ridge of high pressure, to me, is too close to the UK. We want to see it further west. And what I thought yesterday would happen would be, as this Arctic front, this trough, pushes eastwards, I felt it would maybe, push more westwards and northwards in reaction to both the strong trough here over to its west, trough over Europe, but I'm struggling to see that taking place. Now, let's skip ahead to Wednesday here. Now, yes, we have got a northerly flow here, a northwesterly flow. It won't be a warm week, but I don't think, unfortunately, it's going to be as cold as I would have liked to have seen. But we'll continue to skip through the sequence here, folks. You notice here, the western half of mainland Europe is starting to warm up. Now, the trough is actually